Supreme Court steps in. In a landmark decision that could reshape the future of international commerce, the U.S. Supreme Court has taken a bold step. The U.S. Supreme Court has just struck down the legal foundation for the Trump-era trade barriers, sending shockwaves through global markets. This decision has not only caught the attention of traders and economists, but has also sparked a flurry of activity on trading floors worldwide. For years, tariffs and quotas shaped the price of goods and the fate of workers worldwide. These measures, intended to protect domestic industries, have been a double-edged sword, affecting everything from consumer prices to international relations. Today, that rulebook has been rewritten. The gavel has fallen, and with it, a new chapter begins, one that could redefine the rules of engagement in global trade. This decision isn't just about economics, it's about the limits of presidential power and the balance between government branches. It underscores the importance of checks and balances in a democratic system, reminding us of the judiciary's role in shaping policy. By rejecting the broad use of national security as a justification, the court has redefined how America can wield trade policy. This move challenges the executive branch's authority, setting a precedent for future administrations. The implications are immediate legal challenges, political debates, and economic shifts are already underway. Will prices drop? Analysts are already speculating on the potential for reduced costs for consumers and increased competition in the marketplace. Will American farmers regain lost markets? The agricultural sector, which has been hit hard by trade tensions, is watching closely, hoping for a resurgence in exports and a return to stability. How will allies and rivals respond? The international community is poised to react, with diplomatic discussions likely to intensify as countries reassess their trade strategies. Over the coming weeks, we'll explore the real-world impact, talking to business owners, workers, and experts. Their insights will shed light on how this decision is affecting everyday lives and the broader economy. One thing is clear: the landscape of global commerce has changed, and the world is watching. As trade routes are redrawn and new alliances are formed, the ripple effects of this decision will be felt far and wide. This story is just beginning. As dawn breaks on this new era of trade, the unfolding developments promise to keep the world on edge, eager to see what the future holds. To understand today's ruling, we need to revisit the last decade. The Trump administration's America First policy imposed sweeping tariffs on steel, aluminum, and especially Chinese goods, citing national security and unfair trade. These measures sparked a global trade war, disrupted supply chains, and hit American exporters hard, especially farmers. The idea was to boost U.S. manufacturing and jobs by making foreign goods more expensive. While some industries saw short-term gains, most Americans faced higher prices, and many businesses struggled with rising costs. The tariffs created a tangled web of winners and losers, setting the stage for years of legal and political battles. Today's Supreme Court decision is the culmination of that conflict. The legal fight over tariffs centered on presidential authority. Critics argued that using national security to justify tariffs on allies was an abuse of power, bypassing Congress's role in trade. Laws like Section 232 and Section 301 were stretched far beyond their original intent, leading to divided lower court rulings. The Supreme Court stepped in to clarify: how much power can Congress delegate to the president on trade? What are the limits? The answer would reshape the balance of power and the future of U.S. trade policy. In a landmark 6-3 decision, the Supreme Court has fundamentally altered the landscape of U.S. trade policy by dismantling the legal foundation for the Trump-era tariffs. This ruling marks a significant shift in how the highest court interprets the balance of power between the executive branch and Congress when it comes to imposing tariffs, especially those justified under the guise of national security. Chief Justice Roberts, writing for the majority, emphasized that the term national security cannot be used as a broad justification for economic protectionism, particularly when targeting long-standing allies. He argued that such a sweeping interpretation would undermine the intent of Congress and blur the lines between genuine security threats and routine economic competition. The court's decision establishes a much stricter standard. The executive branch must now provide clear and convincing evidence of a direct threat to national defense, rather than simply citing economic rivalry or market disruptions as justification for imposing tariffs. As a result, tariffs on steel and aluminum imports from key partners like Canada and the European Union have been invalidated, sending shockwaves through international trade circles and prompting immediate responses from affected industries and foreign governments. Regarding China, the court found that the previous administration had overstepped its legal authority by escalating tariffs far beyond what existing law permitted, further complicating the already tense trade relationship between the two economic giants. This decision reaffirms Congress's constitutional authority over trade policy, signaling a return to legislative oversight and placing new limits on the president's ability to act unilaterally in matters of international commerce. Now, the Biden administration faces the complex and politically sensitive task of unwinding these tariffs, navigating both domestic pressures and international expectations as it seeks to restore stability to global supply chains. Importers and businesses that rely on foreign steel and aluminum are celebrating the decision, anticipating lower costs and increased access to materials, while industries that had benefited from tariff protections are bracing for renewed competition and potential job losses. With the Supreme Court's ruling, the door is now open for Congress to take decisive action on trade policy. One thing is clear: the era of sweeping executive tariffs, imposed with little oversight, has come to an end, ushering in a new chapter of checks and balances in American trade law. The business world is split. Companies relying on imports, auto, tech, construction, are relieved, expecting lower costs and higher profits. Domestic steel and aluminum producers, once shielded by tariffs, now face global competition and fear job losses. The stock market reflects this divide. Import-heavy firms are surging, while domestic producers tumble. For small businesses, the end of tariffs could mean survival, lower costs, more competitive pricing, and new growth opportunities. But for those who thrived under protection, the transition will be tough. The decision flips the winners and losers, unleashing new economic forces. The challenge: adapt quickly or risk being left behind. The ripple effects are just beginning. The world is watching and reacting. The EU hails the decision as a win for rules-based trade and plans to lift retaliatory tariffs. Canada and Mexico, America's closest partners, see vindication and hope for smoother cross-border commerce. China welcomes the move but remains wary, knowing the underlying disputes aren't resolved. For smaller nations, the ruling signals a return to predictability and multilateralism. The World Trade Organization may regain influence as the era of sudden unilateral tariffs ends. Global supply chains, battered by years of uncertainty, may finally stabilize. The hope: a shift from trade wars to cooperation. But strategic competition, especially with China, remains. The world is ready for a new chapter in global trade. What do the experts say? As the dust settles on this historic decision, legal and economic minds across the country are weighing in, offering a range of perspectives on what this means for the future of American trade policy and governance. Dr. Elena Petrov, a renowned professor at Harvard Law, describes the ruling as a true landmark for the separation of powers. She emphasizes that, according to the Constitution, it is Congress, not the President, that holds the authority to set trade policy. This decision, she says, reaffirms that foundational principle and could reshape how trade laws are made for years to come. Economist Dr. Marcus Thorne points out that lifting tariffs will likely lead to lower prices for consumers and make American businesses more competitive on the global stage. However, he cautions that the benefits will not be evenly distributed. Steelworkers and their communities, who have relied on tariff protections, may face significant challenges as industries adjust to the new landscape. Thorne stresses the importance of targeted support and retraining programs to help these workers transition. Legal analyst Stephen Liu highlights another key aspect. Future presidents will no longer be able to impose sweeping tariffs based on broad or vague claims of national security. Instead, Congress must play an active role, ensuring greater transparency and accountability in trade decisions. The consensus among experts is clear. This ruling rebalances power between the branches of government, restores vital checks and balances, and encourages a more collaborative, deliberative approach to trade policy. It marks a shift toward more open debate and shared responsibility. Economists also note that global supply chains have already shifted in response to previous tariffs and trade tensions. Some of these changes, such as new sourcing strategies and diversified suppliers, are likely to be permanent, reflecting a new reality in international commerce. With this ruling, the United States now has a renewed opportunity to rebuild alliances with key trading partners. By working together, the U.S. and its allies can create more resilient and diversified supply networks, better prepared to withstand future disruptions. the challenge ahead is twofold. To support those who are hurt by the transition, especially workers and communities dependent on protected industries, while also seizing new opportunities for growth and innovation in emerging sectors. Experts agree that the world will not simply revert to the way things were in 2017. The global trade landscape has evolved, and while the path forward is clearer, it will require careful navigation and ongoing adaptation. Ultimately, this ruling represents a reset, not a rewind. America must adapt to a changed world, embracing innovation, collaboration, and resilience to thrive in the new era of global trade. What does this mean for you? For most families, expect lower prices on everyday goods as tariffs disappear. Welcome relief after years of inflation. Exporters, especially farmers, may regain lost markets as foreign retaliatory tariffs are lifted. But for workers in protected industries, steel, aluminum, the future is uncertain. Job losses and plant closures are real risks. The trade wars devastated many rural communities. This decision offers hope for recovery, but not without pain. The ruling creates new winners and losers, highlighting the personal stakes of global trade policy. Policymakers must help those left behind while harnessing the broader benefits of open markets. Your job, your grocery bill, your community, they're all connected to these decisions. The challenge? Manage the transition, support the vulnerable, and share the gains. The story of global trade is personal, and it's far from over. The debate over trade isn't over, it's entering a new phase. The Supreme Court has checked executive power, forcing a return to negotiation and collaboration. The U.S. must now lead in modernizing global trade rules, working with allies to address real challenges like unfair competition and IP theft. The immediate task support displaced workers and negotiate new, fairer trade agreements. For businesses and consumers, the future promises stability, lower prices, and more opportunity, but also demands adaptation. The lesson: prosperity comes from building bridges, not walls. The era of isolationism is closing. The challenge is to ensure the benefits of global trade are shared widely. The next chapter starts now.